Hi, I'm Shelley Forrester. Welcome to Out in the World with Shelley. I'm out in the world today with Gavin Pomarnella. He is the president and founder of Talent Driven Value. And hi, it's really great to see you. There are three words I really like in your company name: talent, driven, and value. So I'd like to start with value. One of the things you do is executive coaching.
Correct.
And what's the value of executive coaching, both to the executive and the company?
At its core, it helps you as an individual perform better. So executive coaching is about developing skills, developing capabilities, and that all leads to you doing your current role better, but also being ready for future bigger roles that you can tackle in the business. And secondly, it's also a way of you to tackle challenges that you're experiencing at the moment in a much more effective way. So you as an individual spend less time trying to fix things that might not have gone right the first time, and the company obviously benefits from you getting it right the first time.
Is it always that clear cut? In other words, when the individual comes to you, is it always so clear cut what the three key objectives are or what the desired outcome is?
Often it's actually not clear at all.
Okay.
Person thinks they know what they're trying to achieve, and a very important part of as a coach is understanding and really peeling back the layers of what's really going on, because you tend to find that what you think your initial goal is only a reflection of something else that's going on that actually you need to address or you're trying to achieve. And so the right questions from the coach can help you understand what their true objective is, and that's the first part of any coaching engagement, is about that.
You know, I love questions.
Yes.
So are there key questions that you as a coach ask people?
I tend to not have predictable questions that I ask each time, but it's more the style of question that I think about, which is, first of all, they need to be open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
So don't come as a coach with a preconceived idea of what the answer is going to be or what the issue is. Ask questions that are going to elicit thought from the person that's being coached, but also make sure that you as the coach are then delving deeper in and not jumping to conclusions yourself.
Okay, so one of your questions might be, why do you say that, or how does that work, or
Precisely.
something like that. I see.
And,
okay.
and what's behind that, and
Mm-hmm.
what do you hope to get out of doing something like that, or etc. And that will help.
Are there questions the person who's being coached should either be asking themselves or asking you as the coach?
Questions that they should ask themselves are very critical. For coaching to be effective for an individual and worth the time they've put into it, they need to commit to a number of things. I find, first of all, they need to commit to time, because coaching does take time out of their day. It doesn't need to be significant, but they need to make sure that they do the work that they need to be working through, the thought that they need to be putting into it, etc. The second area that they need to be doing is actually being open to feedback, and sometimes quite tough feedback, because a coach will call them out if they're saying things that don't make sense or it's not adding up in a certain way. And so those types of things make a real difference to, are you engaged? Are you going to actually learn from the experience?
Key benefits to the executive who hires you, are there like two or three that you would say really everybody who has a great coach will get?
If they follow through with the commitment that they need to make through the coaching program, the first key benefit they'll get is to actually achieve the goals that they've set. So, whether it's a career goal, a performance goal, and a style in the way they interact with somebody, they're going to be better at doing something than they were before. In many cases, those are quite substantial and can have a big impact on their own career opportunities and on the company's performance overall. And there are studies that show that the return on investment of coaching, it ranges from 7 times to even 50, 60 times the cost of coaching, because of that impact it can have.
Sometimes a way to understand what something is to understand what it isn't.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you about the difference between coaching and, let's say, mentoring.
Mhm.
Are there similarities, and what are the differences?
It's some similarities, but if we talk about the differences, the way I like to describe coaching is that we enable and elicit what you have more innately within yourself. So we have frameworks and methodologies that help you learn more about your capabilities, how to apply your capabilities, how to think through a problem. So you become self-sufficient in dealing with certain things when you've completed the coaching engagement. Coaches don't have to be specialists in a particular topic or an industry, etc. Mentors are different in that case. They tend to be more experienced than the person they're mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
They have a subject matter expert in some way. And so you go to a mentor for guidance on specific solutions and apply those solutions then in your workplace.
When's the optimal time to start working with a coach in one's career?
So it's never too soon to start,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean that you need to engage a highly experienced, expensive executive coach early on in your career. There are people, and maybe you'd even start off on the mentoring side initially, but having somebody you can turn to give you perspective, to ask the tough questions early on in your career can help. And sometimes that can just be somebody more senior than you, who's doing it on a more informal basis. So I've experienced that personally in my career. Early on in my career, I had line managers who I reported to who actually were coaching me.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't give me the answers to things. They wouldn't solve problems for me. They allowed me to stretch and try different things myself and learn from that. They did it in a way that gave me some parameters to work within and frameworks to use. And I learned hugely from that. As I got more senior and more experienced over time, there were times where I engaged a coach more formally to help me with key decisions. But you can start off at that informal basis very early on.
Mm-hmm. Could you give one example, obviously a generic example without giving away any confidentiality, of either a really interesting person who you've worked with, or they had a particularly interesting problem, or the progress was faster and better and higher than you thought?
Give you an example of an executive I worked with a few years ago who was on the succession list in his company to take over the CEO job at some point. It happened to be the timing when actually the CEO had left the business, and so that vacancy was there. And he was questioning himself if he actually wanted to be considered. And while they were considering other executives externally as well, whether he wanted to make sure that he was taken into account. And we worked through the reasons why he was questioning that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
We would have thought somebody on the succession plan would have been aware of it already and had come to terms with the opportunities. But it took us a while to do that and actually understand what his reticence was about. And once we understood what his reticence was about, we also could then work on ways to address those concerns.
Mm-hmm. Can you give an example of one concern?
So one of the concerns was his relationship with the board.
Okay.
New leadership on the board, and he wasn't sure if he was connecting with that person in an effective way, and would that affect his performance in the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about ways he could approach that relationship to make it more effective, to be stronger and more collaborative.
Okay. Is there an example of perhaps something either at the level that the person is at or a level below? Because I know most people tend to manage up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right, that's how someone told me once that, the best way to have a good career is to do what your boss tells you to do. But what about managing across and down?
Well, for example, I'm working with a team at the moment where the boss himself is not sure how to get the most out of his team.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've done some work to help him understand the actual personal styles and natural behaviors that the individual team members bring, and how he could best use those skills in a way that obviously they would be more effective in and more happy to do. And so it's a classic case of people don't adjust to the boss's style. The bosses
Right.
don't adjust to the individuals in their team, and the coaching has helped him understand what that looks like.
And so now, what's your background? Were you always a coach, or were you head of HR, so coached people internally?
So I grew my career through the human resources route, having come out of other roles, other functions initially. But I found that as I was developing my career, I was engaging coaches for other people in the organization and realized actually I should develop that skill myself to be an effective HR leader. And through developing the skill myself as a coach and applying that in my day-to-day corporate roles over many years is how I sort of developed the skills. But I added to that as well by being coached myself and learning from those coaches the techniques that they brought, and then going through more formal training eventually to become a certified executive coach.
This may be an unfair question, but do you have a preference either to be an internal coach to the executive team or to be an external coach to executives?
It doesn't matter actually. What my preference is more around is working with people who truly want to learn and develop themselves. From time to time, you'll have somebody come to you and say, a certain person's got a problem and they need help, and the individual hasn't recognized that in themselves yet. And there are techniques as a coach where you can help them get that insight and that aha moment where they say, yeah, I do want help, but there are times when that doesn't work. And nobody benefits from the time or the cost, etc., associated with doing that. So it's more the mindset of the individual being coached than whether they're internal or external.
And do you have to have a problem to get a coach?
No, you need to have an objective.
You need to have an objective, okay.
And so the most effective coaching relationships actually come when somebody's trying to prepare for something going forward. They're developing their careers, developing particular capabilities because the job challenges are changing. But it tends to be more proactive style of learning than needing to fix something that's been an issue.
Yeah, I love that. Because we all have objectives.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
fantastic, thank you.